Determining each student's accommodation needs. In their 2003 research study, Hewig and Tyndall found that, quote, teachers were no more successful than chance at predicting which students would benefit from an accommodation, end quote. The reality is that most students who need accommodations either haven't received them or they haven't received the ones they most need. According to NCES, only 1 in 10 U.S. 8th graders with disabilities received accommodations on the math assessment in 2013. Accommodation decisions should always begin with understanding a student's needs. Since the new assessments make accessibility supports more convenient, many more students will likely use them. One of the biggest challenges for educational leaders is ensuring that decisions are made for each student in a consistent way and with high fidelity. Accommodations are meant to be based upon evidence, not belief. To determine a student's accommodations needs, your team will need an understanding of each student's capabilities as documented in the IEP, student and parent accommodation preferences, ISAP and PNP guidelines, state assessment guidelines, assessment content and format, all previous accommodations successfully used with the student. Our K-12 assessment landscape is in transition. What can you do to prepare your team? Effective leadership will be critical to ensure success with this transition. There's a lot to consider, but here's a good place to start. Establish a standard method to determine accommodations. Write accommodations into your IEPs. Implement accommodations instructionally throughout the year. With the new assessment process, it's imperative that you establish procedures that your IEP teams can use to make accommodation decisions. Read aloud accommodations and extra time are traditionally the most requested accommodations. In 2013, 8% of 4th grade students with disabilities received small group read aloud accommodations. With the new assessments, both consortiums require documentation to prove the need for text-to-speech reading supports. The good news is that there's a diagnostic screening tool that will help determine the need for read aloud accommodations. In 2012, special education leaders Dr. Denise DeCoste and Linda Bastiani-Wilson of Montgomery County Public Schools in Maryland co-authored a procedure called the Protocol for Accommodations in Reading, or PAR. This is an evidence-based screening tool created specifically to help educators make informed decisions about reading accommodations based on individual student needs. You can download a print edition from the Don Johnston website free of charge at donjohnston.com/par. Tools like PAR will help guide decisions that you will need for PARC's Personal Needs Profile or the Test Information Distribution Engine, TIDE, in smarter balanced states. As you design a process to screen students for accommodations, be sure to make the process systematic so that decisions are reevaluated at least yearly. Individualized accommodations must be listed on student IEPs. Build this into the IEP process if it's not already in place. Also be sure to familiarize your team with the Personal Needs Profile, PARC states, and ISAP and TIDE systems for smarter balanced states. Both consortiums require that if a student uses accommodations on the assessment, the accommodations must be used throughout the year, well ahead of the assessment. Establish your screening procedure early enough to get students the accommodations they need in a timely fashion. Both consortiums have a public process for updating, reviewing, and changing their policies, including provisions for approved temporary accommodations, so be sure to monitor changes. And don't forget to check your state-specific guidelines. They may deviate from your assessment consortium guidelines.